mentioned before us, and as we watched the wonderful and brilliant slideshow put forth before us today, I'd like to thank, first of all, Lorenzo Rios, CEO of Clovis Veterans Memorial, Mayor Hmong Wanathua, and the entire city of Clovis, and the Clovis Unified School District, among many other groups who came together to put this highly important but auspicious, momentous occasion to recognize our Hmong SGU soldiers. As you can see, their numbers are dwindling today. We started off with about 30,000, and now there's probably no more than 2,000 to 3,000 left. And we have many friends in the audience who've advocated and lobbied for our Hmong SGU, and one notable mention is the Honorable Congressman Jim Costa, who's in the audience today. Congressman, could you please give him a round of applause? Thank you very much, Congressman. We each have our own story to tell, whether it's an individual story or a family story or a community or a national story. But the Hmong story is highly unique, starting off in the Kingdom of Laos, where the Hmong immigrated from southern China because of persecution. Because the Hmong, if you translate the word Hmong, it means to be free. And as different linguistically, culturally, idealistically we may think of each other, our beliefs and ideals are one of the same. It is deeply interwoven and rooted in the love of democracy and freedom. So therefore, my story today as the youngest son of the late General Vang Pao, how he led his people through hardship and difficulties to defend and protect a country that he loved and he swore allegiance and loyalty to, starting off with His Majesty King Sisavang Mantana, the Kingdom of Laos. But he built a reputation for him as a young boy on the onslaught of World War II, fighting the imperialist Japanese with the French volunteer forces. And it was through that reputation that he gradually built himself up. And through the rise of the Soviet Empire and the Iron Curtain in the 50s and 60s, the Truman Doctrine gave birth to the containment of communism and the nominal theory. Now we applied these doctrines to 1958-59, when the United States administration at that time was outgoing US President Dwight D. Eisenhower, and a newly elected President John F. Kennedy would be sworn in not too long after. But it was in the December meeting that Eisenhower told Kennedy, your biggest issue is going to deal with the containment of communism, especially in Asia, dealing with Red China, the rise of the Soviets, and throughout the world. The United States military then crafted an operation uniquely specialized for the Kingdom of Laos, as Laos was declared a neutral country. No foreign combat boots were allowed on Laotian soil. Yet, to none of our surprise, the Soviets and the Chinese would violate that. Therefore, the Kennedy administration acted. Operation Momentum, which just lasted for about a year, was initiated by the US government and the administration. But it quickly grew to become Project Hotfoot on January 22nd, 1959, all the way until April 1961, which uniquely becomes the greater operation of Operation White Star. And that is where today, as we celebrate the Hmong American friendship, the legacy and the history of our SU soldiers, it was two distinct men that gave rise to all of this and why we are here today and why we're honoring and celebrating what we are today. The first gentleman goes by the name of Bill N. The second gentleman goes by the name of Vang Pao, who happens to be my father. And how fitting it is, 65 years ago on a cold January mountain morning, Bear Laird, who traversed all the way from Thailand to Laos to look for a man by the name of Vang Pao, who was still fighting communist elements hiding in the jungle. It took Bill Larry days to locate my father. But with success, it would come soon. And through a simple handshake, a Hmong-US military alliance that was not only special but strategic was formed. My father was only tasked with 3 things, and my father only requested about 3 to 4 things from the United States. Give us the weapons. My soldiers have families that need to be taken care of. Train my soldiers. And if things don't end up well, don't abandon us. That was the contract signed through a simple handshake in 1961. Gave rise to these men and women we see here today. As Paul mentioned earlier, 3 tasks were given to the Hmong, 3 important tasks: to disrupt cotton supply lines that traversed and transited through Laos into South Vietnam, bypassing the DMZ, which a lot of our Vietnam vets know very well, as they were stationed in South Vietnam. Secondly, was to help protect and defend strategic covert U.S. military operation sites inside Laos. For example, Lima Site 85, which is known as Pupati, was a tactical air navigational system radar that guided U.S. bombers over the skies of North Vietnam. And this was a covert site operated by the USAF. Not too long after, the North Vietnamese would find out, and they would successfully destroy it inside Laos. But the Hmong and the Lao soldiers also paid a price defending it. And last but not least, as we just heard from Paul earlier, to help down and rescue U.S. pilots. And a few names as a testament to this, and many of the elements of which surrounded the Hmong SGU and my father and the CIA remain very classified today. Only few have been declassified, but Captain Jim Russell, Captain Chuck Engel, Raven 26, Captain Gerald Young, shot down in 1967, Dieter Dengler, 1966, when his A-1 Sky Raider was shot down, Colonel Phil Cochran in 1970 with his CH-3E helicopter, and Colonel Hill Hamilton and First Lieutenant Mark Clark in 1972 are just a few. One more. Charles Frederick Klausman in 1964 with his RF-8A Crusader, which was a reconnaissance aircraft. These men vouched for what the Hmong Lao soldiers did, traversing enemy territory to rescue their fellow brethren and allied pilots. In the process, some were successful, other attempts were unsuccessful, and our U.S. pilots remain missing in action to this day. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a distinct honor for me to stand on the stage today to address all of you as my father's youngest son. And I'm so proud of all of our SGU veterans and our veterans from different conflicts that all defended and protected our great republic, our great nation, our freedom and our democracy. And so I leave off with this message from our late President Ronald Reagan. And I quote, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed down to them to do the same, or one day we will spend our sunset telling our children and our children's children that it was like what it was like in the United States when men were free." And so with that note, the Hmong American and the Lao Hmong American communities today, as Mr. Cher said, we are proud Americans. We became Americans before even setting foot on U.S. soil when my father took that handshake. Many Hmong knew how to fly planes before driving cars, if you can believe that. Women became nurses, teachers. My father expanded social programs with the rank of military general. He was just a military figure, but he was able to transform his entire people. and their livelihoods for the better. And as Moses led his people from Egypt, from hardship and enslavement, my father also was our Moses and led his people to their new promised land of these United States of America. So may God continue to bless each and every single one of us. May God continue to bless our brave men and women who serve in the United States Armed Forces today, who serve to defend our country, our national security, and our freedom. May God continue to bless our heroes, our veterans, no matter which conflict. And may God continue to bless these United States of America. Thank you.